Did you ever assume NCIS was simply a television drama centered on investigations, suspects, and highly trained agents tracking dangerous criminals? The reality behind the cameras was far darker. Beyond the cases were personal stories marked by heartbreak, loss, and painful struggles. Some cast members faced shocking accidents, while others endured the deaths of loved ones or battled the overwhelming pressures of surviving fame in Hollywood. Now, we're revealing the hidden tragedies surrounding NCIS cast after 23 years, and some of the details about who remains alive today may completely surprise you. David McCallum as Donald "Ducky" Mallard. When he first arrived on NCIS, David McCallum was already 70 years old, stepping into the role of Donald "Ducky" Mallard, the brilliant chief medical examiner whose warmth made him feel like the team's father figure. With his soothing voice, sharp intellect, and understated wit, Ducky gradually became the emotional center of the series, allowing McCallum to connect with an entirely new generation of fans. McCallum entered the world on September 19, 1933, in Glasgow, growing up while World War II reshaped Europe around him. International fame eventually arrived through roles in The Great Escape and The Man from U.N.C.L.E., though his private experiences were marked by lasting emotional pain. During the 1960s, his first wife Jill Ireland left him for his close friend Charles Bronson, and decades later, another heartbreaking loss struck when his adopted son Jason, Miss Jason, died from a drug overdose in 1989. That tragedy remained a silent burden he carried throughout the rest of his years. On September 25, 2023, David McCallum died in New York City at the age of 90 due to natural causes. Near the end of his life, he reportedly dealt with heart complications and breathing difficulties connected to years of smoking. After his passing, NCIS honored both McCallum and Ducky with a tribute episode, while fans continued describing him as the emotional soul of the franchise, even in 2026. Although life brought him immense sorrow, McCallum eventually found stability and companionship with his second wife, Catherine Carpenter, remaining together for 56 years until the end of his life. People close to him often remembered him as compassionate, loyal, and remarkably thoughtful, yet many believed the pain of losing his son never fully disappeared. Even while his health weakened, he kept returning to NCIS because he deeply appreciated the cast and loyal audience that stood beside him for decades. For countless viewers, David McCallum remains the soft-spoken gentleman whose presence brought heart and humanity into every moment on screen. Sean Murray as Timothy McGee. At only 25 years old, Sean Murray joined NCIS as Timothy McGee, portraying the shy computer expert and field agent who would later grow into one of the team's most dependable leaders. As the years passed, McGee transformed into one of the emotional foundations of the series. By 2026, Murray had appeared in over 480 episodes, securing his place as the longest-serving actor in the history of the franchise. Born on November 15, 1977 in Bethesda, Murray spent much of his early life moving across different countries because of his father's military career. Once NCIS became a major success, critics repeatedly accused him of receiving the role only because he was the stepson of producer Donald P. Bellisario. Those accusations lingered for years and placed enormous pressure on him behind the scenes. As time went on, internet rumors involving conflicts and cheating allegations created even more unwanted controversy around his name. By 2026, at 49 years old, Murray continues serving as one of the leading stars of NCIS Season 23. His character is now involved in major personal storylines, including the discovery that he has an 18-year-old son, while speculation about his possible departure continues circulating among fans. Despite ongoing rumors, Murray has admitted that he still feels deeply attached to the show after spending more than 20 years with the franchise. Away from the cameras, his private life shifted significantly after divorcing Kerry James in 2024, following nearly 2 decades of marriage. Around that same period, viewers became alarmed by his dramatic weight loss and wrongly suspected addiction problems. Murray later clarified that the transformation resulted from cutting sugar and alcohol out of his lifestyle to improve his overall health.
Since then, he has chosen a quieter existence, dedicating most of his attention to his children while avoiding unnecessary Hollywood controversy. After growing up under constant public attention, Sean Murray now appears far more focused on finding peace than chasing celebrity status.
Mark Harmon as Leroy Jethro Gibbs. At the age of 52, Mark Harmon accepted the role of Leroy Jethro Gibbs in NCIS, portraying the disciplined yet fiercely protective leader of the investigative team. Through his restrained intensity and commanding presence, Gibbs became one of television's defining characters of the 2000s, helping guide the series for almost 20 years. Mark Harmon was born on September 2, 1951 in Burbank, into a well-known but emotionally demanding family. Beneath his professional success, he experienced years of emotional hardship while watching his sister Kristen struggle with addiction before her tragic death. In 1996, Harmon gained national attention after using a sledgehammer to break a car window and rescue two trapped teenagers from a burning vehicle. Years afterward, a different scandal drew even greater scrutiny after reports claimed his dog attacked a crew member on the NCIS set, leaving the victim needing 16 stitches. The situation reportedly created serious tension with co-star Paulie Perrette, and sources said the pair eventually stopped appearing in scenes together. In entering 2026 at 75 years old, Mark Harmon continues to stay deeply connected to the NCIS franchise. Even after stepping away from the spotlight for years, he remained involved as narrator and executive producer of NCIS Origins, which CBS renewed for a third season. He also made an unexpected return to acting in Disney's Freaky Friday alongside Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. Beyond television, Harmon published his third nonfiction book, Ghosts of Sicily, written together with Leon Carroll Jr., exploring naval intelligence operations during World War II. Far from the Hollywood spotlight, Harmon has spent many years protecting the privacy of his family life with actress Pam Dawber and their two sons. While old gossip involving former co-stars still resurfaces online from time to time, he has mostly stayed clear of major controversies in recent years. His identity was even misused by online romance scammers posing as him to steal money from admirers, adding yet another bizarre twist to his decades-long career. Although he no longer appears as often in public, Mark Harmon still carries the calm yet guarded presence that turned Gibbs into one of television's most unforgettable leaders for millions of fans. Brian Dietzen as Jimmy Palmer. Brian Dietzen was just 26 years old when he debuted on NCIS as Jimmy Palmer, the socially awkward assistant medical examiner who gradually became one of the series' most beloved and reliable characters. During more than 2 decades on the show, Palmer evolved from lighthearted comic relief into the emotional center of the morgue, helping Dietzen become one of the franchise's longest-running performers. Born on November 14, 1977 in Barrington, Dietzen first developed his acting career through stage productions such as Equus and Waiting for Godot, before eventually transitioning into television work. A major turning point came in 2020 when he suffered a sudden stroke linked to a congenital blood clotting disorder. In that same difficult year, he also underwent heart surgery, forcing him to endure 2 frightening medical crises almost one after another. The ordeal drained him physically and emotionally, leading many people to wonder if his acting journey might quietly end there. As of 2026, at 49 years old, Dietzen remains an important presence in NCIS Season 23 and played a central role in the show's landmark 500th episode. Along with acting, he expanded into screenwriting for the series and launched the podcast NCIS Partners and Probies with co-star Diona Reasonover, where they share behind-the-scenes stories spanning more than 20 years. For many longtime viewers, his return to work after surviving both a stroke and heart surgery became one of the most inspiring comeback stories connected to the cast. Outside of acting, Dietzen has maintained a strong marriage with Kelly Scobie since 2004, and together they have raised 2 children. Unlike many celebrities in television, he has avoided public scandals and personal feuds, choosing instead to focus on a peaceful, family-centered lifestyle. Still, living through 2 serious health scares completely reshaped his perspective and made him deeply grateful for the family and career he nearly lost forever.
Today, countless fans view Brian Dietzen not only as Jimmy Palmer, but also as one of the toughest and most determined members of the entire NCIS family. Rocky Carroll as Leon Vance. Rocky Carroll was 45 years old when he entered NCIS as Leon Vance, the disciplined yet respected NCIS director, who later became one of the show's strongest authority figures.
Over nearly 20 years, Vance transformed from an enigmatic outsider into the dependable leader guiding the agency through some of its darkest and most dangerous moments. Born on July 8, 1963 in Cincinnati, Rocky Carroll first built his reputation through theater and Shakespeare performances. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, he struggled against persistent racial discrimination while searching for meaningful dramatic roles as a black actor. Determined not to be overlooked, Carroll fought through those challenges by dedicating himself relentlessly to stage productions, proving his talent in an industry that rarely offered actors like him significant opportunities. In 2010, while carrying the growing responsibilities of NCIS, he also endured the heartbreaking loss of his mother to cancer. By 2026, at Muse's 63 years old, Carroll officially concluded his 18-year portrayal of Leon Vance after the character was dramatically killed during NCIS's milestone 500th episode, All Good Things. Vance's final sacrifice while protecting the agency became one of the most emotional scenes ever featured in the series. Even though his character's story reached its conclusion, Carroll confirmed he would continue contributing behind the camera as a director, with his first post-Vance-directed episode premiering in April 2026. Outside the entertainment industry, Carroll has long been regarded as one of the most private and widely respected members of the NCIS cast. Since 1996, he has shared his life with architect Gabrielle Bullock, and together they created a peaceful home centered on their daughter, far from the chaos often linked to Hollywood. Although his time on screen as Vance eventually slowed down, Rocky Carroll has continued staying closely involved with the franchise that became such a defining chapter of his career. Today, countless viewers recognize him not just as a powerful performer, but also as one of the important creative minds responsible for helping NCIS endure across the years. Joe Spano as T.C. Furnell. When he first stepped into NCIS at roughly 57 years old, Joe Spano took on the role of Tobias Furnell, the determined FBI agent and trusted friend of Gibbs, whose journey carried several of the show's most emotional arcs. Through his natural connection with the cast and his worn, emotional performances, Furnell gradually became one of the franchise's most admired recurring figures throughout the NCIS universe. Born on July 7, 1946 in San Francisco, California, Joe Spano had already earned major respect for his work in Hill Street Blues long before arriving on NCIS. Yet portraying Tobias Furnell also brought intense emotional demands, particularly during storylines centered around the tragic losses of his wife and daughter Emily. Over the years, those painful scenes required emotionally exhausting performances that many viewers still rank among the franchise's bleakest moments. As of 2026, at Muse 80 years old, Spano is still portraying Tobias Furnell while continuing work in both film and voice acting projects. He additionally appeared in Disney Pixar's animated production Hoppers as the voice of Ancient Beavertonian and attended a rare red carpet event alongside his adopted daughter Maylise Spano during early 2026. Despite his age, audiences and journalists alike continue admiring the same composed charm and graceful presence that have defined him for decades. Away from the cameras, Spano has maintained a calm and steady life in California with his wife Joan Zarian and their two adopted daughters. While numerous actors from his era became trapped by scandal or celebrity culture, he instead remained committed to family life and theater work. That lasting sense of stability has become one of the main reasons audiences still admire him after all this time.
For devoted NCIS viewers, Joe Spano symbolizes something that has become increasingly uncommon in modern Hollywood. Gary Cole as Alden Parker. Entering NCIS at 65 years old, Gary Cole stepped into the role of Alden Parker, the composed and unconventional FBI veteran selected to guide the team after Gibbs left. With his understated humor and reliable screen presence, he helped smooth one of the most challenging transitions the series had ever faced, quickly establishing Parker as a major new figure within the franchise. Gary Cole was born on September 20, 1956 in Park Ridge, Illinois, and spent many years building a respected career across television and film while largely avoiding Hollywood controversy. Still, away from public attention, his personal life brought painful hardships. In 2018, his longtime wife Teddy Seidel passed away while the couple was going through divorce proceedings, leaving Cole emotionally heartbroken during an already difficult chapter of his life. At the same time, he also carried the responsibility of supporting their daughter, who lives with autism.
Outside the spotlight, Reasonover has earned recognition as a modern generation of entertainers balancing acting, comedy, activism, and writing simultaneously. Since marrying Patricia Valletto in 2018, she has openly advocated for inclusion and representation throughout the entertainment industry. Although she encountered intense criticism in the beginning, Diona Reasonover ultimately transformed one of television's most difficult replacement roles into a defining achievement in her own career. Duane Henry as Clayton Reeves. At 31 years old, Duane Henry entered NCIS as Clayton Reeves, the charismatic MI6 operative whose kindness and loyalty quickly resonated with audiences. Even though Reeves' storyline came to an abrupt close during season 15, the opportunity dramatically changed Henry's life and introduced him to viewers across the globe. Born in Birmingham, England on March 18, 1985, Henry was raised in a working-class environment by a teenage single mother and spent much of his youth without truly knowing his father. After relocating to London in pursuit of acting, he endured homelessness for periods of time, sleeping inside warehouses, riding trains overnight, and accepting odd jobs simply to get by. Despite financial struggles, he continued attending auditions and gradually gained experience through British television dramas such as Doctor Who and Doctors. Looking back years later, Henry admitted that being cast in NCIS felt almost unbelievable because it rescued him from poverty and completely redirected the course of his future. By 2026, at 41 years old, he is still expanding his acting career through fresh projects, including the London-based British crime series The Borough. As NCIS celebrated its 500th episode, many longtime viewers hoped Clayton Reeves might return through flashback scenes, although Henry explained that his attention is now centered on pursuing different creative ambitions. He has additionally begun creating personal screenwriting projects exploring immigration, identity, and the social challenges facing modern Britain. Away from television sets, Henry has become passionately involved in charitable work supporting homeless individuals and struggling teenagers, particularly in Birmingham. Drawing inspiration from his own difficult experiences, he regularly encourages young performers to persevere through rejection and hardship. Despite the painful circumstances he once faced early in life, Duane Henry ultimately transformed his darkest struggles into the determination that carried him toward success. Katrina Law as Jessica Knight. Joining NCIS at the age of 36, Katrina Law stepped into the role of Jessica Knight, the fearless agent recognized for her sharp instincts and emotionally guarded nature. Thanks to her powerful action performances and effortless chemistry with the ensemble cast, Knight rapidly became one of the series' most beloved modern characters. Born on September 30, 1985 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Law became famous through physically demanding roles in Spartacus and the Arrowverse long before entering NCIS.
Maintaining that action star image came with a heavy physical cost, as she endured constant training schedules and repeated soft tissue injuries while filming fight scenes and stunt sequences. Even while dealing with exhaustion and pain behind the scenes, she continued performing many of the demanding scenes herself to keep her performances realistic. By 2026, at 41 years old, Law remains a central part of NCIS Season 23. Her character, Jessica Knight, now faces major emotional conflicts after turning down a prestigious overseas training position to stay with Alden Parker's team, while her complicated relationship with Jimmy Palmer continues attracting fan attention. Outside NCIS, she is also attached to the upcoming action horror project Darkness of Man 2 and has been linked to a possible animated return to the DC universe connected to Arrow's anniversary celebration. Outside acting, Law has maintained a remarkably stable personal life with her husband Keith Andreen and their daughter Kinsey. She is also heavily involved in animal rescue charities and organizations supporting women in the film industry. Colleagues frequently describe her as disciplined, supportive, and intensely professional on set. Even after years of physically exhausting roles, Katrina Law continues to push herself as if she still has something to prove. Muse Watson as Mike Franks. At 58 years old, Muse Watson entered NCIS as Mike Franks, the tough former agent and father figure who became one of Gibbs's most important mentors. His rough Southern charm and hardened personality gave the series some of its most emotional and memorable moments. Muse Watson was born on July 20, 1948 in Alexandria, Louisiana, and spent years building a respected acting career before being widely recognized in Hollywood.
He gained international fame playing the terrifying killer Ben Willis in I Know What You Did Last Summer, creating one of the most iconic villains of the 1990s horror cinema. Despite his intimidating screen image, Watson's real life remained far quieter and more compassionate. When NCIS killed off Mike Franks, many fans were devastated, and rumors quickly spread online claiming Watson had clashed with Mark Harmon behind the scenes. Watson later denied the rumors completely and explained that Franks' death was simply the right direction for the story. By 2026, at 77 years old, Watson continues appearing at NCIS fan events and remains closely connected to the franchise, especially after the launch of NCIS Origins introduced a younger version of Mike Franks played by Kyle Schmid. Fans frequently compare the two portrayals, helping Watson's original performance gain new attention again. He now spends more time teaching acting and participating in smaller independent projects near his hometown. Away from Hollywood, Watson has lived a peaceful family life with his wife Nancy since 1997, while supporting charities focused on children with disabilities. Friends and colleagues often describe him as gentle and deeply caring, the complete opposite of the dangerous characters he became famous for playing. Even decades after Mike Franks first appeared, many NCIS fans still consider Muse Watson one of the emotional foundations of the entire franchise. So, that's the cast of NCIS after 23 incredible years. Some became legends, some faced heartbreaking struggles, and others are still fighting to stay strong today. But after everything they've been through, it's hard to believe how much their lives have changed since the series first began. Which NCIS star shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more then and now stories.